The Super Over Podcast.
With me, JP Duminy.
And it's me, Jemimah Rodrigues.
Okay, hello, welcome to the Super Over Podcast, a cricket podcast where we love to get to know what is it actually like to be a professional cricketer. And so with that in mind, we have our amazing panel once again. We have JP Duminy, who of course you remember, a former South African international. JP, hair's looking good. Talk us through that one.
You just had to bring that one up, didn't you?
Well, you normally have a hat.
Sorry?
You normally have a hat on, so we need a story as to why there's no hat.
Well, firstly, I had a haircut a few days ago, and then I had an interview done this morning. So I needed to get things in proportion again. But as you can see, I've covered up the gaps pretty well, so it looks all right.
Yeah, well done, JP. Always a pleasure to have you with us, mate. And then we've got Jemimah Rodrigues joining us from Mumbai. Jemmy, how you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here again.
Yes. They're coming very thick and fast at the moment, 2 recordings in a week, so we're just rolling that wave. And our guest today, one of the Sri Lankan all-time greats with the gloves, with the bat, just as a human being, really. Kumar Sangakkara joins us. Kumar, you're so welcome. How you doing?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Great to be here.
What's been happening, Tom's?
Sorry?
What's been
What's
happening?
that for me? Nothing much, really. It's just been a lot of the well, it's not, can't say a lot of the same. It's been different here with all that's been happening. I've traveled much less internationally and traveled a lot more in Sri Lanka. So it's actually been really good in one way. Of course, you know, a lot of people have suffered. There's so many deaths around the world, so many frontline health workers, you know, working so hard. But at the same time, as a family and, you know, with close, you know, friends, it's been actually a really nice kind of bonding period as well.
Yeah. I've certainly found that as well. I mean, we've obviously caught up at least once a week. And the main theme that has come out of it has been opportunities to spend more time with family. We've realized also Jemmy has hidden talent. You know, you'll only see it if you follow her on social media. So hopefully one day she'll grace us with, you know, that hidden talent of an actor or actress rather. But yeah, it's certainly been awesome, man. I know that your twins are, as you said, 11 years old now. I mean, I remember meeting them for the first time in Sri Lanka. They might have been 5 or 6 years old. So
Yeah.
how's that been? You know, having them at 11 now. I mean, what sort of challenges do that bring?
Well, I think that, they've been really good kids, but I think the challenge is to try and keep them occupied these days. I mean, the schools have closed, but they've been having the distance learning platform online, and that's kept them occupied, but they also have a lot of free time. So we've been taking them away to various parts. Sri Lanka, internal travel has opened up. So we did a lot of internal travel. We went up to the East Coast in Sri Lanka, and they kind of got to know a little bit, you know, their country a little bit better, which is very important because hopefully, fingers crossed, this is where they want to live for the rest of their lives. But I think also they've become slightly more responsible. You know, left go and I actually had a class project, and he did it on COVID, and to sit through and, you know, he had to interview he had to interview a doctor, he had to interview other frontline health workers, he had to, you know, research the disease. So there's a lot more responsibility in terms of what's going on in the world, how that affects them and us and everyone else. So it's been kind of fun as well. And you know, they swim in the mornings, they go to swimming class. It's like kind of they got to drag them out of the house. 2 hours of swimming early morning is not fun. But I think, like I said before, I think we've probably grown a lot closer, JP. And the older they get, you know, lots of things you worry about, but at the same time, a lot more to enjoy as well. And the kids these days, they're not like us. They're pretty advanced, the way they think. Not afraid to say what they think, you know. So, yeah, it's in a handle, but good.
Yeah. I can imagine. And Kumar, what's it looking like work-wise for you? Are you still doing lots of media commitments, or have you had a nice extended time where it's been peace?
It's amazing what a great excuse COVID-19 has become to avoid all sorts of interviews, all sorts of meetings, and say, no, we can't make it. But then, of course, Zoom comes along, and then you've got to, there's another way of doing things. But I've just had a lot of time off, really. I was supposed to travel to England for the West Indies England series, but because of quarantine procedures coming back, I had to cancel the trip. So usually this time, I've spent about 6 months of the year in London. So that's out for this year. So it's just been time at home, and I've really, really enjoyed it.
Mm.
What does that look like in terms of 6 months of the year? What is that? I know there's the role at the MCC, obviously.
Work with Sky. Working with Sky, and usually my kids get the 2 month summer holidays, so we go to London and we spend those 2.5 months as a family. They come back, I stay on. So it's almost become like second home to us over the last few years. My kids went to school in England for 2 summers as well when I was playing for Surrey. They really enjoy their time there. But it always makes me happy, JP. Every time I ask them, where do you want to go to school? Like, why don't I find a school for you in England permanently? And they go, no. The lifestyle here doesn't suit us. We need to go back home. So it makes me quite happy when they say that. What about you? What have you? But I was seeing that you did a lot of work with your foundation through COVID. A huge amount of work helping your community out. That's another thing.
Exactly that. So we've had to come up with innovative ways of engaging the community, really. So we've come up with these, we partnered with another NGO through a COVID care campaign. So, in terms of communities here, a lot of the communities don't necessarily have access to the media space. So they're not necessarily educated as well as maybe we would be in terms of the protocols and so forth. So a lot of the COVID care campaign was basically teaching the young kids about, the certain protocols that they have to adhere to, wearing masks, sanitizing, social distancing, but also hopefully that information will be shared across their families. So the community that we operate in is quite a big one. It's over 1 million people. So we're just trying to keep them active within there. So it's been interesting, we, as I said, innovative, no cricket is being played and probably not for the next couple of months at least. So it's been good to engage them on that front.
Hold on, you said no cricket. What about the 3-team format?
Well, that was just a solidarity thing where they tried to raise funds for a certain charity, but also just trying to get some kind of cricket online. That was quite a tough thing to get over the line from the government point of view. They were very much hard protocols to get through, but eventually they got through.
Yeah, even in Sri Lanka, the initial period of lockdown made life extremely hard for daily wage earners, especially daily wage earners who were living in urban areas, because they really struggled with a lack of finance to purchase food. They struggled with all their jobs suddenly, disappearing overnight. So there's a lot of stress and a huge need. So, a huge amount of people contributed, work, gave of their time, their money. It always surprises me, though. It's when the times are good. Sometimes you don't get people, helping each other out as much as in times of disaster, unfortunately. But it's really good to see. And for Sri Lanka, it's been kind of a cycle. We had the war, then we had the tsunami, we had the blasts last year, and then COVID-19. But it's really good to always see that everyone helps each other. There's a huge sense of community.
Yeah.
It's been really good. We've been lucky. We've had 11 deaths so far.
Oh, okay.
Only. So we've been really fortunate. Yeah.
Okay.
That's very nice. Obviously, Jem, we've heard the past player perspective of COVID with messing up with their routines and their work. For you, as a current player, you must be itching, right, just to go and play cricket. You've seen England, West Indies, series. So, I mean, how are you feeling right now?
I think, I've spoken to a few of my teammates too. I think everyone's in the headspace like, when is our cricket going to come back? Because we're not used to being at home for so long. I think this is the longest time we've been at home in over so many years, maybe more than 10 years. This is the longest time I have been at home for so long. So yeah, we can't wait to get back. And as you said, watching England, West Indies play and then hearing about the tournaments coming up and all, we are like, okay, when will our turn come, when you can just go and step out on the field and just play some good cricket. So hopefully it will happen soon, but yeah, we're still waiting for.
Are you guys training? Are you guys practicing, or do you have a training schedule? Do you train as a group, or?
This is a sensitive question, Kumar.
So,
you want to tell us why, Jim? You want to tell us why?
So I have started practicing from past few weeks. So there's a ground which is not my own, but we know the person over there. So they have given us a ground. So they've been kind enough to allow me to start practicing. So it's been good. But some people from our team still don't have the opportunity to go out and practice there. So it's getting kind of difficult for them. And otherwise, BCCI has been giving us the training programs to make sure our fitness level is up. So with whatever equipments we have set a program, and we do have in a week twice, I think, Zoom sessions together with our trainer. So that's the new way of working out there.
Yeah, well, that's one thing I haven't missed since I retired. Working out, sticking to schedule, training sessions, bleep tests.
Yeah. Preach it.
Yeah.
Jim, I want to say something, Jim. So you brought this to our attention that Kumar. So we had Suresh Raina on the pod a few days ago, and we've come to understand that there is a bit of interest in what we are talking about and so forth. So the reason why I want to ask this question is just to highlight what you guys are wanting and needing. And you mentioned that we know that IPL is coming up for the men's side, and it's kind of like in between for the women. So obviously that's something that you want to see unfold, isn't it?
Yeah, I think definitely, because at the end, we are looking forward to having a T20, no, not a T20, sorry, a one-day World Cup in New Zealand next year. So I think for that, our team needs to have good preparation, and that's just going to happen by being on the field and playing. Because already it's been a lot of time off practice and off practicing together as a team. So I think, one of the ways that will help our team prepare well for the World Cup, can be the women's IPL too, and also having tours, Tricot in US. So, if that would have happened, it would have been a really good experience for us, because we were playing teams like England and South Africa, which are one of a few of the best teams in the world. So that would have given us a lot of exposure and practice. So we don't know where we are at right now, but hopefully things will get better soon for us.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, at least there's an IPL experience coming up. Liam, you quite excited for that?
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm excited to see. Are you, Kumar, are you going to be there doing some commentary work?
Yeah, I think they're still deciding whether we work in Dubai or whether we work from home using remote working technology, or maybe even Mumbai. But I think there's still quite stringent regulations in Mumbai, so I'm not sure how that will work. But there's buzz, there's excitement, there's talk, and plans being made. So yeah, exciting.
Mm. So it might be time for us to just go down memory lane slightly. Now, of course, JP and Kumar have a great link in that they were bonded together through Deccan Chargers, the time that they spent there together. And JP's already spoken to us off air that actually they had a great time. We got to know Kumar there. I mean, JP, for you, having someone like Kumar in and around that squad, how good was that for you? What did you learn? Obviously, you became friends, so just fill us in on that.
Yeah, I think the main thing that stood out for me is the attention to detail and the way he went about, particularly his game. Kumar, I don't know if you remember this, but I mean, you should, because I think it was pretty much a pre-match routine for you. I remember you sitting next into bat, and your leg would just shake like that, and that was kind of like your body getting itself into work mode, I guess you can say. Because I remember you were quite fidgety, but that was just your way of your body just getting used to, the tension of wanting to get out there, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. You get all these little nervous tics. You don't sometimes realize what you're doing.
Yeah.
And your legs going, and you're thinking about, okay, what do you do? And then look, and you're trying to stay kind of. You're trying to G yourself up a little bit, because sometimes if you've got to sit there for a while, you kind of energy drains. You just kind of try and keep yourself engaged and occupied. And it's strange. It happens more in the shorter version of the game for me. Like in test matches, it's slightly more different. I'm a little bit more relaxed, and you've got a little bit more time. But it's a great team to play for as well. Great, and I really, really enjoyed my time. And you were one of those rare players who had success in every format, but especially in T20, because you had I was actually, it's a strange thing. I came across highlights of not the last time we played against each other, but the time before in Sri Lanka, maybe 2013, 14, maybe.
Yeah.
And you scored 90 odd in Kandy, batting, all the way through the innings. And I was watching you mulling a bowling Yorkers wide off stump, and you kind of sweeping him to mid wicket and to square leg. And that was the one thing that I used to look at you and see how you changed gears, how you changed direction. It was really cool to see that. I had a very conventional game, not like a lot of the other players going around now, but for me, that was also a huge learning experience. It really helped me with my one-day game in 2013, 14, 15. And I completely changed the way I thought about one-day cricket because of my experience in the IPL and having chats to you guys and watching you guys play. So, yeah.
I think we all kind of experienced that, particularly in our IPL experiences, and the benefit being that we could have conversations with various other guys in different teams. And even you talk about our team, Darren Lehman, who was our coach. I mean, he was certainly significant in a change of mindset of how we played. I remember him saying to me, we were playing against Shane Warne, and obviously this is now the back end of Shane Warne's career, and he just told me, if you walk into bat and you want to hit him for 6, the first ball of your inning, you do it. And it's amazing how that backing from a coach or management, whatever the case may be, just shifted your thinking to say, you know what, actually I can do that. And I think we've all kind of experienced that, and we probably lean towards those kind of coaches that give you that self-confidence. Yes, you need self-confidence yourself and backing your ability, but there's something about when a coach kind of just gives you that freedom to go out and express yourself, don't you think?
Yeah, and I've had this thing that I hate about coaches who, if you try to clear the boundary and you get caught on the line and they come and tell you, you should never have done it. I'd rather have the coach coming to me and say, well, next time, can you hit it 6 yards further so you don't get caught? That's all you got. That's the only change you need to do. Or if you get out cutting, don't go and tell the player, don't cut. Just cut it better.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do, right? You got to just get him thinking positive thoughts, not thinking about, I should never hit that shot again. Or, if you want to hit a 6, the field shouldn't really matter.
Mm. It's a difficult thing in Sri Lanka, though, the big fields.
Yeah. When we played the West Indies, we used to make them bigger. So they had to really work for their runs. They couldn't just jog across. Chris Gayle couldn't just swing and just watch the ball sail. He has to run. He has to work for his run. Yeah.
Liam, who was your if you think about Kumar's era, particularly in his prime, there were some greats of the game, and who would have stood out for you in terms of watching cricket that you really enjoyed, partnering with someone like Kumar?
Sri Lanka or worldwide?
Yeah, Sri Lanka, yeah.
Well, I just think when you think about Sanath, you think about Mahela. I mean, Dilshan, just absolutely amazing to watch. And Kumar, I picked up what you said there about you being conventional. And I was just thinking, I wonder if you were coming through now, like a Jemmy, do you think you'd play any differently? Or actually, was the convention why you were so good?
So, see, the era when I started, 2000, it was just after the 1999 World Cup, and we had this 15-over rule in one-day cricket. And I was batting, I started at number 5, but then I went number 3. And all I was told was, bat till the 45th over. Don't worry about scoring runs, whatever. Let everyone else bat around you. Just hang in there to the 45th over. And that was my kind of role for a long time. In Test cricket, of course, it's just play conventional and bat long, have your targets, bat sessions, all of these things. But as the rules in one-day cricket changed and then T20 came along, your mindset changed with them. You now thought, okay, well, hold on. That approach was before. And I remember when we started, if the run rate went to 6 and you're chasing, you're done. You're out of the game. You don't even think about chasing it. And by 2011-12, we were thinking, keep it under 10, you're fine.
Yeah.
And suddenly even 12 is okay. So it's strange how your mindset changes with in the context of when you're playing and who you're playing and what format, under what rules, even in one-day cricket. At the back end of my career, all I could think was, by the time I finish my innings, I need to be over 100% strike rate. That's the bottom line for me in my last 3 to 4 years of one-day cricket. And I would definitely play very, very different. Maybe not differently in Test cricket, but definitely in one-day cricket and T20 cricket. I would probably change a lot of things, including my setup, my initial movements, all of these things which you can kind of tinker around with and not be afraid of, for sure. Different shots, learning different, to access different areas, touch, power. I would probably train differently as well, wouldn't you, JP? More strength work, more power.
Yeah.
Get all of that in line. Yeah, for sure. Differently, for sure.
Yeah, you're right. And it's amazing how generational shifts happen, and you see the uniqueness on the different types and styles of batting, bowling, you name it. Even training to a degree where things change. I was interested by, just thinking of Sri Lankan cricket where it is at the moment, and we've had great experiences, battles on the field, where we've come up short many times in Sri Lanka, barring one. But where Sri Lankan cricket sits right now, what's your sort of thought process? Are they in a good space? Who's the sort of I guess players to look out for right now? Where do they find themselves?
Oh, well, we've never short of talent, JP. That's always been the case. We've had enough talent. But to take that talent and refine it into real ability, it takes a really good first-class system, which we don't have. We have 24 first-class teams. Everyone's spread too thin. The quality is not there. The challenge is not there. So it doesn't really filter through the players of highest quality. But having said that, look at guys like Kusal Mendes. What a fabulous player. He's to me, I look at him bat and I think this guy is 10,000 runs in both formats, and then an amazing strike rate and record in T20 easily. Avishka Fernando is another young guy. Angelo Matthews is still playing. He's the best player going around. But unfortunately, they haven't been as consistent as they should have. And one of the main reasons for that is that when you're playing cricket, you need security to a certain extent, not to make you complacent, but to give you confidence that you will get a fair run, you will get a fair hearing, and you will be given time to kind of find your way, because you need a little bit of time, right? Especially with the first-class system we have. We haven't had a consistent team. We haven't had a consistent batting lineup. And as a result, you're not going to get the consistent scores or the wins. And that's been a problem with our setup for a very, very long time. Even for us, when we really look at how we came through, I think we succeeded in spite of the system, not really because of the system. And every few years, we had a Murali, we had a Malinga, we had a Jayasuriya, we had a Mendes, some X-factor player who came along and we had high skill, yes.
Yeah.
But then when the production of those X factor players doesn't come as a bunch, then you see the failings in the system, and then you're always playing catch up. And I have great confidence in players that there are now. I think they're much more talented than we were at the same time.
Yeah.
The only thing they don't have is that maturity, and to get that, the administration needs to give them everything of the best, because when that happens, you take away all the players' excuses, and they have no choice but to perform and get better. Otherwise, what can they say?
Yeah.
So we need a bit of a rethink on the system, an overhaul on the system, and you can't as an administration, as coaching units, as structures, be complacent and think, oh, we won a World Cup. In '96, we won a T20 World Cup in 2014, and be happy with that. You really need to do more than that, and that's where we're at. And I think our guys need time, but if the structure doesn't come with that, it'll take much longer for these guys to do what they should be doing.
Yeah,
that's really interesting. Jemmy, flipping that to the youth system with India, obviously you've come through it pretty rapidly. Do you notice a really good grassroots, good structures there for young players like you coming through?
I think women's cricket has gotten much better than what it was. So in the start, we used to not have many matches, but over the last few years, in domestic cricket itself, we started playing a lot more matches, and then we started having senior zonals and zonals that help more quality matches rather than just having a lot of quantity matches. So it should not be just a state, but it used to be like from 4 states they used to pick up players and play. So I think that is one thing that has helped develop the domestic structure. But yes, definitely there are many more things that we can do to help develop the bench strength and help develop women's cricket in India. And one of the most important things I think everyone's stressing on is on a women's IPL, because if you see how the Big Bash and how after the Kia Super League, you have seen the confidence in the players. You've seen how players have grown just with experience, and they know what to do in certain situations. Whereas I don't think without that they would have been able to develop so quickly and so fast. So one of the most important things that we would really love to stress upon is having a women's IPL, because if you want to, sorry.
No, has been discussions on that. I remember wasn't there an exhibition game in the IPL a few years back?
Yes. So last year we had one exhibition game, and last year we played around 4 to 5 matches. So they are taking steps, and this year, if it wasn't for the lockdown, then we were supposed to have a 4-team IPL, a women's IPL. Okay. So everyone was looking forward to it, but now let's see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's so important in terms of, like you said, developing confidence, getting players to play in that high pressure environment, and it makes it so much easier for players to graduate from there to play in World Cups and so on, because you've already played in an environment and you kind of, like you said, know what to do. And also in terms of making cricket really, really professional, I'm not sure whether in India the women's game is at let's say first class level is completely professional. In Sri Lanka it definitely is not, and as a result our players have suffered quite a lot in terms of having access to the best facilities and having time to really train. But having said that, we've also had some great women cricketers who've come along in the last 2 years. But yeah, I'm really interested in that, because I think the market and the space in the market for the women's game is absolutely huge, and to have more and more young girls and boys picking up this sport is so important. And having the women's IPL and having all these tournaments around the world is really inspiring, and I think it's something that everyone really needs to get behind.
Jem, who would you say is your favorite wicketkeeper to watch?
My favorite. I don't think I have to say that. I mean, guys should know it by now. I'll be a bit biased, but Mahendra Singh Dhoni.
I just throw that out there. I throw that out there. But just on that, Sanga, I mean, if I know it's a difficult thing to kind of point out certain or mention sort of technicalities of the wicket keeping part of your game. On a digital platform, it's better obviously face to face. But if we had to ask you that question, what would you say in your career would be one of the fundamental things that you did that helped your wicket keeping, especially when you were batting for long hours as well?
So I was an accidental wicket keeper. I picked up wicket keeping because they didn't have a wicket keeper at age group in my school, and the only way I could play in that 11 was if I picked up the gloves. And I always say, and this is true, it's not a joke, I've got hit more times on the head keeping wicket than batting. Right? that's how good I was as a young wicket keeper. But I remember when I was in the A side, and I was playing as a fielder most of the time because there were other much better wicket keepers than myself. And I was sent to a wicket keeping class, a coaching clinic, and we had one of the greatest wicket keepers I've ever seen, Sri Lankan Mahesh Rodrigues. And when I say I've ever seen, I mean international standards as well. He was an incredible wicket keeper, but he had this inbuilt ability, talent that couldn't really be coached. And he had these various little techniques of drills that he used to do, which I went there and I spent half an hour, and I was so confused because I couldn't do a single of those drills because they were so difficult. So I used to train, and then we got a really good trainer called Shane Duff from Australia. He was in the IPL for a short time. He was in the Big Bash. And you can follow him on Twitter. He's got a Twitter handle called Mad About Racing, and he's all about horse racing now. But Duffy, in 2003, 4, he was a wicket keeper, and he worked an hour a day every day with me on technique. And then when I went to Zimbabwe once, Ian Healy spent 3 days, and when Ian Healy spoke to me of wicket keeping, I just stopped and I thought, really, it can't be that simple, can it? And it actually was. And all he told me, and both of these, Shane Duff and Healy, all they told me was the most important thing about wicket keeping is your body position, your posture, and your leg movement. Everything else follows, because for your hands to catch the ball, your head needs to be behind the ball. And for that, your legs need to get your head there. Your body needs to be strong, powerful. Concentrate on that first. I was always taught, and everyone's taught, quick hands, or you need to have good hands to be a wicket keeper. Actually, not true. And when you really break it down, and I started doing my drills, if I was talking to a young wicket keeper, that's all I would say. I would teach him strong body position, powerful, sharp, strong leg movements, and never do a single drill that is rushed. Because if you're keeping to fast bowlers, the bowler runs in 20 yards, bowls the ball that travels 22 yards, and you're standing another 20 yards back. So 42 yards from the time of delivery to gets to you, have enough time to see it. And I've seen so many keepers doing drills where the fielding coaches are drilling balls at them, and they have no time to move their feet. They're diving around, they're just using one hand, or it just creates bad habits, bad technique, when all you need in wicket keeping is repetition, rhythm, and confidence. So even when you're doing a catching drills, whether it's to spin or pace, always give yourself time, practice on really good surfaces to spin, things that rag, because your body will adjust and you will know what to do when it rags, but you need to build that confidence. And one of the other things is you need to have a really trusted coach to work with. One person in your team who always nicks to you, always throws to you, and always does your drills with you, because that kind of rhythm and consistency and relationship you build with that one person, it really helps to get you, to doing the movements, your timing right in wicket keeping. So those are the little things that after that you can invent your own drills if you like. But that is always the basic. You'll always follow good body movements, get your head behind the ball, the hands are always there.
Yeah.
And Kumar, in terms of the mental side, of being a keeper. I mean, you never really switch off, and you're in the game every delivery. But how do you stop your brain just becoming fried because you're intensely concentrating? How do you find those little pockets of, right, think about tea, think about, but then not drop a catch the next ball?
Yeah, it's a tough one. We keep, especially if it's Sri Lanka, it's 35 degrees, it's humid. And with the new rules, you've got to wear a helmet as well. When we started, you forget the helmet. You always kept in a cap to spin. But I've actually unknowingly, so I played 40-odd test matches as a wicketkeeper. I played most of my one-day cricket and T20 cricket as a wicketkeeper batsman. It's fine in one-day cricket and T20. You can bat number 3, keep wickets. You will get tired, yes, but you can manage in Test cricket. I thought I could do it, but unknowingly to me that mental fatigue sets in. And you go out there to bat after keeping 4 sessions. You go, the first wicket falls quickly, you're in at number 3, and mentally you think you can do it, but all your movements are slightly a little bit too slow, a little bit too jaded, and you make a lot of mistakes. So it's very, very difficult. And I always advise in Test cricket, if you're a wicket keeper, you've got to bat at number 5, which is the highest you should, and number 6, 7 is your ideal position. Otherwise, you can't do it over time. Luckily for me, the selectors made a decision for me that I was not going to keep in Test cricket. I was really upset at that decision. My ego was telling me, who the hell are these guys to tell me what I can do? But it is the best thing that happened to my Test cricket, and my batting just completely changed after that. But for one-day cricket and T20 cricket, I love keeping and batting at 3. I thought that really kept me in the game. It really had me switched on right throughout the game, and it really helped my performance. And even though I got tired, I rather than thinking of not missing a catch, I would just try and take the same way I batted, ball by ball, concentrate, look at the field. That was my relaxation. Looking at the field, looking at angles, because you had a little bit more responsibility than just catching the ball. So that helped. But it's not always easy. You do get very tired.
I think you get this. You might have. I'm assuming you would get this question quite a bit. Any aspirations to coach?
Me, no. I don't have the patience, JP. I think I think it'll be me or the student, one of us. I think we'll be at each other's throats. I like talking batting with people.
Consultant role?
Sorry?
Consultant role, maybe?
I didn't hear you, sorry.
Consultancy role, maybe?
Yeah, consultancy, maybe. Yeah, yes, I think that probably is a much better way. And I always the real thing about any kind of coaching, right, is never to try and make a copy of yourself. You got to look at the player in front of you, identify what they can do, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and get their strengths to a premium. Try and get rid of some of those weaknesses, or teach them a way to hide those weaknesses so they can score runs or get wickets or do their job properly. The other thing is, with technique, I was brought up in such a technical environment. Everything had to be perfect. Your elbow, your backlift, your wrists, your forward defense. And I wish someone told me, listen, the whole point of technique is to make you effective. Right? I mean, it's great to watch a beautiful, batsman, just elegant and correct. Still have to score the runs at the end of the day, right? And those are the things that I think modern cricketers need to hear a lot of: tactical batting, how to think in situations, how to stave off pressure by just thinking about what you need to do for that one ball, and the ability to change your game, not just changing gears or changing from format, but change your grip if that's what it takes you to get better. Change your backlift, change whatever needs to be changed. You need to be brave enough to make that decision, but that's how you're not going to get stale. And that's how you're going to have not just a long career, but a long, successful career where you're always improving. I think those are the conversations a lot of coaches need to have with players at varying levels. I think that's something that's probably it's being done, yes. But in our region, I think especially where we've grown up on very English coaching, we need to do a lot more of that change.
Yeah.
I actually have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
And even JP can answer on this. So everybody talks a lot about mental training and mental toughness, and many people say you need to be mentally strong. But I would like to ask y'all, how do you train your mind, or how do you prepare your mind before a game or for situations, or even for how to train your mind to be mentally strong?
JP?
Throwing me in the deep end, are you? So one of the main things that I Neil McKenzie, I don't know if you remember Neil McKenzie.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so he was our batting coach, particularly in the last 2-3 years of my career. And I had this thing where I had a certain routine where I felt that I needed to put myself under pressure every single time that I went into the nets, for instance. And then he sat me down one day and he said, listen, what about doing this? He says, so there's very much value in putting yourself under pressure in a net scenario, because it's like you're talking about mental preparation for what is perceivedly to come. So you kind of assuming what you're going to be facing. You might even ask certain bowlers to bowl certain balls, or the coach to throw certain balls that you might be facing. And that was the key elements to it, where I went through a phase where if you look at a 3-day lead up to a test match, for instance, the third day out would be you go into the nets, you're facing all the bowlers, you're putting yourself under pressure, and you're trying not to get out. So for me, that was kind of the mental preparation that I would go through to make sure that I'm honing that skill for the game. 2 days out, then you do a little bit of that, but then you're honing on skills that you feel like you need to prepare for. So you're asking a coach to throw certain deliveries to you that one you could be facing in the game with certain types of bowling, whether there's a left armer, in swinger, out swinger. But then the last day, it's either I would get away from the game completely, or just sort of feel good scenarios of maybe coming in and honing in on your strengths. And for me, that was a lead up to a game, and that gave me the mental preparation to go in and say, right, I'm ready to go. So I think mental preparation is purely around that understanding that all you've done, you are ready now to tackle what's in front of you, which is the task at hand.
Mm-hmm.
You put yourself on mute there, Sangha.
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
Perfect.
Technology, too old. I think your confidence has to come from your training rather than from the game itself. Because if you're only chasing runs and you're kind of gauging your preparation and your ability on just that, I think it's going to get harder and harder to trust your training. So I agree 100% on challenging yourself. The sidearm that players get a lot of throwdowns from nowadays. I hate to see people just being thrown half volleys all day long. When I batted and I went into the side nets, it was a case of challenge, get me out, get some new balls into the sidearm and really bounce me, do whatever you want, what you do in a match to try and get me out. And that would be my thing, would not just to be hitting mindless half volleys, but to try and really challenge myself, like in a match situation. Same thing with the net bowlers. Every day you have a little plan and you try and work on it, while not trying to get out, or not probably a negative thing, but I would say while not committing as many mistakes. The other thing is, I think you've got to change it. Without saying mental strength, it's better to say mental skills. Because I think that's really important to understand. It's not about just being tough and trying to take on situations and be unfazed. It's about learning to deal with these situations in the best way possible so that you keep going forward. You're advancing the game, you're scoring the runs, you're putting pressure back on the opposition, and you're dealing with both disappointment and failure. So you need to be really skilled in terms of that. And the other thing I always find we probably, I don't know, in my mind, I think everyone needs to change that. But we always talk about positive reinforcement, right, in cricket. We're only taught to look at our strengths. I only think about really good things that's happened, all the runs you've scored, all the wickets you've taken, all these great shots you've played. But I think you've got to be a little bit more realistic than that. And you've got to make a very realistic assessment as to what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. And like I said before, your strengths you've got to develop to an absolute premium so that day in, day out, you can count on your strengths. Your weaknesses, any batsman, any cricketer around the world, they'll have a weakness they can't get rid of. They'll have some they can get over. But you need to be able to manage those weaknesses and hide them or shield them until you get where you want to go in terms of getting wickets or in terms of scoring runs. So you've really got to then balance out. Once you realize what you can do and what you can't do, then you kind of realize, okay, you learn to realize who you are, how you react with emotion, how you react under pressure, how best you deal with them and what your coping mechanisms are. And then you can really strategize practice schedules, practice plans that really work for you and get you challenging, like JP said, get you challenged so that you keep improving all the time. And when you go into matches, you'll always find when you are faced with a difficult situation, you've already dealt with it, you're skilled enough in your mind, you know how to get around it, get through it, or get over it. So it's really those things that you really need to work on and have conversations with them and model your practice upon so that you can deal with it in the game.
I just want to make one comment on how you shifted the wording, which I really enjoyed there, Sangha. You spoke about mental skills as opposed to mental toughness, and I want to emphasize that point because mental skills is one where you use the word now again, conversation, because mental skills allows you to identify with, let's say, perceived weaknesses and be willing and vulnerable enough to have a conversation, whether it be with a coach or even a teammate, so that you can advance from that perceived weakness to get it better. But often when you think about mental toughness, often people think, well, I need to be tough in this moment, so I can't speak about or identify with my perceived weakness because I don't want to be seen as weak. And I think that in itself is the weakness that we as cricketers we experience, because we're so scared of being seen a certain way that the change of wording there really speaks into that highly.
When I first played at Durham, we had an open and I played with him at Surrey as well. Great guy, great batsman, played for England as well. And one of the things I realized when I was playing with him, I played only 2 weeks in preparation for 2014. Was that every time he got out, it was always, he used to beat himself up saying, oh, how can I do that? There is no excuse. There is no weakness. It's my fault. It's my fault. So I kept trying to tell him for 2 years. I said, listen, it's, you will always get out. The real key is to delay that long enough to score runs, right? That's how you need to look at this thing, right? Especially when you're playing in England, you're gonna get out. Yeah. It's inevitable. It's a guarantee. Failure in cricket, guaranteed, right? I said you just need to find a way. To soften up a little bit and understand. Yes, you've got weaknesses. You're going to get out, but what are you going to do until that delivery comes? And if you do that well enough, you can delay that delivery. Or you can be lucky, you nick something which is just past the fielder or just short of a fielder, you get over that because you're thinking positively. Yeah. You're not beating yourself about thinking, oh, don't get out. You're thinking about scoring runs. And that little shift in mindset really opens up huge possibilities for you to kind of think differently and look at gaps in some fielders. Yeah. Various things. And we always talk about, JP and Jemimah, we talk about being in form, but you'll always find that being in form is not about mindset. It's about being in sync. And I have this theory on timing, and it's you watch JP play a cover drive, you watch him play a little flick off his leg, and you say, oh, great timing. He hardly seems to touch the ball, and the ball just flies to the boundary. But the real key is what's behind that is that on that day, for that moment, his body, his movements are all in sync with the bowler, the pace of the bowler, the swing, the pace of the pitch, everything else that's going on around him. And that's real timing. And you'll always find that if you try to recreate a previous innings, you will fail because it's a new day and your body needs time to settle in and get into rhythm. Your mind needs that time. And that's what you say, that's what you call, that's what you mean when you say playing yourself in. It's about taking the time to allow yourself to fall into sync. Sometimes you do it from ball one. Other days you take half an hour. Some days you take a session. You just need to recognize it and not fight it. And allow yourself the time. Struggle through, look ugly. You might come off a double hundred and the next day it might seem as if you never batted in your life. Recognize it because that's what timing really means. Falling into sync.
Nah, sure.
You're making a note, Jemmy.
Yeah. I'm going to hear this podcast again.
Jemmy, sorry, Liam, we've got some fan questions.
Yeah, from Jemmy's amazing question. Let's just finish with some fan questions. Right, JP, if you ended up coaching a cricket side and you could have anyone, who would you want as your assistant coach?
My assistant, I'm going to go with somebody like John T. Rhodes. Very weird.
I thought you would say Liam Flint. But it's
Well, up here.
And the reason why, I mean, I've worked in teams where he's around in terms of the management, and he is an energized bunny, and he's such a great guy to have around the team environment, positivity, and he leads from the front in anything that you do. So I'll definitely pick him.
Yeah, you'd have a good fielding side. You and him together.
Yeah.
Work them like dogs. Okay, Jemmy, where are you most looking forward to touring once the pandemic has eased?
That would be New Zealand, my favorite.
New Zealand.
Have you visited Sri Lanka yet, Jemimah?
I have last year, I guess. Yeah.
That's my favorite place. Thanks, Kinga.
That's it. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Beautiful place. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, Kumar, last honours go to you. This is a big question. Can Sri Lanka get back to the old times where the team was so strong, and how many years do you think it will be before you get there?
I think they're going, forget getting back to the old times. I think they're going to get stronger. They're going to be better because the games have changed, and times have changed, and the performance parameters have changed. I think our team definitely has the ability to get there. They just need a really good support structure. Support not just to prop them up, but like JP always said, challenge them to get better. And unfortunately, if you're not good enough, you will automatically, someone else will come through. And I know it sounds quite ruthless in terms of where everyone is in today's day and age, but professional sport, in some ways, you have to have all these support structures. You need to have second strings to your bow. You need to have other options available, and all of that provided so that you have a safety net if you fail. But at the same time, that cannot make you complacent. It really needs to keep pushing you, that you don't have to worry about anything else. You go out there and do your best, be the best that you can be, and get your performance up to a peak. And I think Sri Lanka needs more of that, and if that happens, the team will definitely be much better than the teams of old. Yeah.
Okay. Look forwards, not backwards. That's the message.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Kumar, it's been so good to have you. So much wisdom. Thank you for coming on.
That's the first time someone said that to me. I've got to record. I've got to play it to my kids.
Yeah, we butter you up and then we get you back on.
Yeah, and just the last point, Sangha, thank you very much. I think I just want to highlight one thing. We've obviously had quite a few people on the podcast, and it's been great. And the thing that stood out today was the cricket conversation, actually. And I'm sure Liam and Jamie will agree. There's a lot of nuggets that we can all take, and advance. Particularly, even if it's from a coaching role or playing role, we can definitely advance ourselves within the game. So we want to thank you for that, man.
It's been a pleasure. It's been great to see all of you, especially you, JP. It's been a long time. Love to your beautiful family. Say hi to them. And thanks, guys. Thanks, Liam. Thanks, Jemimah. Good luck. See you soon.
Thank you so much.
All right, man.
Thanks
Take
for
care.
coming on.
Thanks,
Well,
guys.
thanks.
Yeah,
Thank
All the
you.
best, mate.